They buried him before sunset, quietly, quickly, as if night itself was chasing them. The drums were silent. The elders did not chant. No libation touched the earth. And when the last mound of red soil was pressed flat, the wind stopped. People say the dead should rest when the earth closes above them, but this one did not, because by midnight, when every door was shut, when even the dogs refused to bark, the coffin came back. No footsteps, no broken branches, no marks in the sand, just a coffin, standing in the village square, facing the house it once left. And from that night on, the village learned a terrible truth. Some secrets are heavier than the grave. Obioma was not the kind of man people laughed with. He was the kind they greeted carefully. When he walked through the village path, conversations paused, eyes lowered, throats cleared. Not because he was cruel, no, but because he knew things. He was 38, tall, broad-shouldered, always dressed simply. Yet his compound was larger than most, his barns fuller, his silence louder than drums. The elders respected him in public, but feared him in private. At night, lamps still burned in Obioma's house when others slept. Some said he spoke to spirits. Others said strangers visited him after midnight. Only his wife, Nkiru, knew the truth, and even she carried it like a wrapped blade. On the day Obioma died, the sun rose harsh and unforgiving. He had been summoned by the elders at dawn. By noon, he was brought back home, lifeless, eyes half open, mouth frozen as if trying to speak. No sickness, no wound, no struggle, just death, sudden, final, and inconvenient. By evening, the elders had already decided how he would be buried. In that village, burial was not just about the dead. It was about balance. Certain men were buried near ancestors, others near sacred trees. But Obioma was denied all of it. The elders claimed it was tradition, yet their voices trembled. They ordered that he be buried in the evil forest, where rejected spirits wandered. No rituals, no cleansing, no farewell rites. Kiru knelt in the dust, begging softly, her wrapper soaked with tears, her voice breaking between words. But tradition, false or not, does not listen to widows. As the coffin was lowered, the rope snapped once, then held. A bad sign, whispered the grave diggers. The earth felt warm, unnaturally warm. No elder poured palm wine. No flute sounded. Not even the insects dared sing. When the last soil hit the wood, a low sound escaped the ground. Not a cry, not a voice, but a deep hollow thud, as if the earth rejected what it swallowed. That night, no one slept well. It happened just after midnight, when the moon stood directly above the square. A cold wind swept through the village, extinguishing lamps one by one. Then a scream. The night guards ran first, barefoot, breathless, hearts pounding louder than drums. What they saw froze them where they stood. The coffin. It rested in the village square, clean, polished, untouched by soil. It stood exactly where community meetings were held, facing Obioma's compound. No drag marks, no broken earth, no footprints. The grave diggers were summoned, shaking, swearing by every god they knew that they buried him deep. The elders ordered silence, threatened curses, promised punishments. Before dawn, the coffin was carried back. This time, buried deeper, heavier stones added, prayers spoken without belief. But Nkiru did not sleep. She sat upright, staring at her door, listening, because just before morning, she heard it, a soft knock from the ground. By the second night, fear had learned the village paths. Children refused food. Dogs hid beneath huts. Even the bravest men avoided the square. When the coffin returned again, it did not stop at the center. It moved closer to Obioma's house, facing Kiru's door. This time, the lid was warm. The elders argued in whispers of voices cracking. One suggested burning it. Another suggested the river. The oldest elder said nothing, just wiped sweat from his brow. Before they could decide, sickness came. One elder collapsed during evening prayers, blood trickling from his ears. Another woke screaming, tongue swollen, eyes wide as if staring at something unseen. And each night, the coffin moved again, closer, waiting. On the fifth night, Kiru could no longer pretend she did not know. She followed the sound, barefoot, heart breaking with every step. The coffin stood at her doorway. She touched it, and flinched, and knocked back, slow, deliberate, alive. Then a voice, low, familiar, filled with sorrow and fury. Nkiru. She fell to her knees. They buried me wrongly. The voice continued, each word heavy. They hid the truth, but the earth refused the lie. Behind her, elders gathered, faces pale, secrets shaking loose. The coffin trembled. This is only the beginning, the voice said, and the ground beneath them began to crack. The elders did not speak immediately, because silence had become their only shield. The coffin stood between them like a witness that could not be bribed. Then the oldest elder stepped forward, his voice trembling like dry leaves. It was not meant to happen this way, he said. We only wanted him quiet. Kiru's breath caught. The truth spilled slowly, painfully. Obioma had discovered that the elders had sold ancestral land, sacred land, to outsiders. Land where spirits were bound, where oaths were buried. If the ancestors found out, the entire village would pay. Obioma refused silence. He threatened to speak during the next new moon gathering. So they summoned him. What they gave him was not medicine, but poison mixed with palm wine. They expected a quiet burial, a forgotten man. But the ancestors were listening. The coffin shook violently. Lies cannot sleep, the voice said, and neither can I. That same night, the second elder died. He was found seated upright in his hut, eyes open, mouth stretched in terror. On his chest, red soil appeared, wet, freshly dug. By morning, panic spread like wildfire. People packed belongings. Some fled before sunrise. The village priest refused to step outside. When the coffin moved again, it stopped before the elders' meeting hut. 3 slow knocks echoed. Knock, knock, knock. Each knock was followed by a scream from a different hut. The elders dropped to their knees. Confessions poured out, overlapping, desperate. But the coffin did not open, because justice had its own timing. Kiru stood apart, torn between fear and love. She felt Obioma's presence everywhere, heavy, restless. She returned to the coffin alone before dawn. Her fingers traced the carved symbols, now glowing faintly. Come home, she whispered. Let them face what they've done. The coffin lid creaked open. Inside, Obioma lay untouched by decay. His skin warm, eyes closed, as if sleeping. But when he spoke, the air froze. I cannot rest, he said. The land cries louder than my bones. Kiru understood. To save the village, someone must speak the full truth aloud, in daylight. At sunrise, the coffin moved on its own, sliding to the center of the square. Villagers gathered, trembling, silent. The lid opened fully. Gasps filled the air. Obioma sat up, not as a corpse, but not as the living either. His eyes were dark wells, reflecting guilt. He spoke every name, every deal, every lie. With each word, the ground shook. Trees bent. Birds fell silent. When he finished, half the elders lay collapsed, lifeless. The rest begged for mercy. Obioma turned to Nkiru. One last rite remains, he said. The village priest finally emerged, shaking, carrying forbidden tools. The truth had been spoken. Now balance had to be restored. A new grave was dug, not in the evil forest, but at the ancestral boundary. Palm wine was poured. Drums returned, slow, mournful. As Obioma lay back into the coffin, the sky darkened unnaturally. This ends tonight, his voice echoed. But as the coffin was lowered, the ground cracked open wider than before. Something else, something older, began to rise. And the village realized This was not yet the end. The ground did not open like soil being dug. It split like flesh torn apart. A sound rose from beneath, deep, ancient, layered with many voices speaking at once. The villagers stumbled back. Some fell. Some cried out prayers they barely remembered. From the crack emerged a presence, unseen yet undeniable. The air thickened, breathing became labor. Even Obioma stiffened inside the coffin. "These are the Watchers," he whispered. "The ones you bind with greed and starve with lies." The elders who still lived screamed as the earth wrapped around their legs. Slowly, deliberately, not pulling them down, but holding them in place. "To remember," the voices thundered. The priest dropped his staff. This was no longer punishment. It was judgment. The Watchers demanded a seal, a living witness. Someone must remain to tell the story. Forever. All eyes turned to Nkiru. Her heart shattered, but she did not run. She stepped forward, hands shaking, spine straight. "I will remember," she said. "I will speak." The ground released the elders, only to take them fully this time. They sank without screams, without graves. Red earth closed above them, smooth, final. A mark appeared on Kiru's arm. Symbols burned into flesh, glowing briefly before fading. "You are bound," the voices said, "as this land is bound." The coffin began to descend, slowly, peacefully. As the coffin lowered, Obioma lifted his head one final time. His eyes softened, finally human. "Nkiru," he said gently, "do not let silence grow teeth again." Tears fell onto the wood, sizzling as they touched it. The drums changed rhythm, lighter, sorrowful, cleansing. When the coffin vanished fully, the crack sealed itself. Grass began to grow instantly, green, alive. But the village felt smaller, because something precious had been taken, and something terrible had been learned. Weeks passed, but nights remained uneasy. No one spoke loudly after dark. Children were warned never to whistle at night, never to joke about the dead. Sometimes, near the ancestral boundary, knocking could still be heard. Soft, respectful, waiting. Kiru became the keeper of stories. People listened when she spoke, because her eyes had seen what truth costs. Till today, no house stands where the coffin first returned. The square remains empty. Elders now pour libation before every decision. Not out of tradition, but fear, because the earth remembers. And when lies grow heavy, when secrets rot beneath power, the coffin knows the way back. The first sign appeared during the harvest moon, when the village believed everything had finally settled. Laughter returned cautiously. Mortars pounded grain again. For a moment, people dared to feel safe. Then the ground breathed. It was subtle, almost kind. A slow rise and fall beneath the red earth, as though something slept just below the surface. Children felt it first, stopping mid-play, listening. Nkiru woke that night with the same pressure in her chest she felt when the coffin first returned. The mark on her arm burned, not painfully, but insistently. At the ancestral boundary, grass that had grown unnaturally green began to flatten. Perfect rectangle formed, coffin-shaped. No knocking followed, which frightened her more. Strange things followed. Names were forgotten mid-sentence. Old men paused while speaking, eyes empty, as if their thoughts had been lifted away. A woman swore she saw her dead husband pass her doorway, but could not remember his face. The priest returned to Nkiru, voice trembling. "The Watchers are still hungry," he said. "Truth was spoken, but remembrance is fading." That was the price. A village that forgets repeats. Each night, a soft dragging sound crossed the square. By morning, the earth smoothed itself over, leaving no proof, only absence. Nkiru understood what must be done, and hated it. She gathered the people at dawn, forcing their eyes to the boundary. "This land eats liars," she said quietly, "but it starves on silence." She dug with her bare hands. Fingernails broke. Blood darkened the soil. When the earth finally opened, There was no coffin inside. Only bones. Not obiomas. Many, layered, ancient, bound together with rusted chains. The watchers had not been awakened by greed. They had been buried alive long ago. That night, the coffin returned one final time. It did not stop at the square. It did not face a house. It stopped at the pit Nkiru had opened. The lid opened slowly without sound. Inside was no body, only earth, red, wet, breathing. The voices rose softly now, tired, satisfied. "We are remembered," they said. The coffin lowered itself into the pit, sealing the bones beneath it. The earth closed gently. For the first time, the village slept. Years later, travelers ask why the square is empty, why no house dares rise there. The elders, new ones, do not answer quickly, because stories carry weight. They only say this: when the dead knock, open your ears before your ground. At night, when the moon is full, the earth lies still. No breathing, no knocking, but if you stand long enough, barefoot, listening, you will feel it. A warning resting beneath your feet, because some coffins return, not for justice, but to make sure you never forget. If the story followed you into silence, if the knocking still lingers in your thoughts, then do not walk away quietly. Subscribe, so you don't miss the next story the night brings. Like this video, so the spirits know you listened till the end. Comment below. Tell us, would you have opened the coffin or turned away? And share this story with someone who believes the dead always stay buried. Because here, we tell the stories the earth remembers.